Exploring Gobekli Tepe has taken us on a journey of understanding into the past and possibly an aspect of our origins. Based on the tasking, the viewers were asked to look at the intended purpose and use of Gobekli Tepe once construction was complete. Edward Riordan once again did not disappoint. He did several paper sessions and then he moved to the whiteboard where he continued to expand upon his data. Edward explores the target as an open area with underground and above ground components to it, and went deeper then, exploring what might be going on within this site location. Edward shares a story, a stream of data that ties into a potential AI system that has some kind of influence on a life form. He talks about the potential impact of a signal on the central nervous system of this life form. And Edward notes several times that this site has an Atlantean feel. This session leaves us with a lot to ponder about what was happening at Gobekli Tepe.
Target 7953-6101. First off was a dream that had the idea of Thor, that character Thor with a hammer. But my first impression is that it's an open area. Open area, wide open. And I get the impression that there are like some gas vents or something like that. You know, gas vents underground. Gas vents underground. And it has that kind of gaseous smell. And that reminds me of like the ancient Delphi, where they're in the caves, and the gas is coming up and they're getting intoxicated from the gas. That's what that reminds me of. But it also reminds me of, like, you know, this is above ground, and we have an element that's below ground. But it also reminds me of the surface of like a human skin. A human skin surface with the hair and even the outgassing of a human skin. Because I don't know if there may be some underground water here. But I'm not sure. Because if I'm getting a sense of both this landscape here and also how it may relate to skin as well. It's interesting because they both kind of feel related. Kind of feels related to both. This natural thing. So there's that. And the landscape is like this kind of a mountainous range, open, wide, and remote area. It's quiet. Quiet and remote area. With this idea of like there, caves underground. Caves underground. It's very location specific. So the target is location specific. And again, I get this feel of this gas coming up from underground. Quite remote location. I'm not sure where though. Something like that. That kind of mountainous, remote, quiet feel to it. But this idea of the skin also comes up. This idea of like the human skin and the pores, the pores of the skin. This feels very physical. Very physical. The circulatory system. Very nervous system. Nervous system, nerve endings. Here, like these are the nerve endings of the skin here. But it's very physical to the touch along the nerves. There's impulses and stimuli that are going through the nervous system of someone's skin. That's very interesting to me. Like a touch. Like a touch thing. And the endocrine system. Endocrine system. Below, the idea here is that this is below the skin. All these things are happening here. Electric signals and or electric type signals, different hertz ranges and voltages and those types of things that are moving through all these nerves. This element here feels very physical, like something's happening here to someone's physical body, and these signals are moving along the nerves. That's interesting to me. But then I have to ask, are these natural internal signals? Are these natural internal signals? Natural internal. There are That is the sense. Some signals are moving through a physical body, someone's physical body, along someone's nerves. And it feels like there are signals that are being introduced. They're being introduced from external. There's an external source stimulating the nervous system, stimulating the endocrine system, sending these signals in. And this element feels intelligent. Intelligent interaction. An intelligent interaction between this physical, natural system and an external system. But it's touching. That's how it's happening. There's a physical touch happening. A feeding impulse, a feeding. A feeding impulse. But I don't know why. I don't know why though. Why? I have to ask. Why introduce an external stimulus to a natural physical unit? Is it to experience a different environment? A different environment? Maybe it's something more virtual. A virtual environment. Meaning that if a touch came in, affected the nervous system in a way that produced a virtual experience. A virtual experience. It could also send signal, send impulse, instructions, directions along the internal system, turning things on and off. Question mark? Question mark? Turning things on and off, like increase red blood cells or decrease white blood cell, you know, that kind of thing. Sending instructions. Sending instructions. If it was positive, it would be growth, for growth, or rejuvenation. Under the positive, but if it's negative, it'd be the opposite. So I'm not sure what it is yet. On a positive note, it's to increase vitality. On a negative note, it's to decrease vitality. Okay. A system, let's look at. It would be a system. A system, a system to interact with. A system to interact with, physical human. And this could remind me of like an AI to human interaction. AI to human. But, you know, for what? For what, though? For what? Why an interaction like this? It gives me the idea of like a mechanical arm. A mechanical arm. Well, why? Why that though? Because, and this goes back in time of survival. Meaning that if someone was missing an arm, they'd be at great disadvantage. Serious disadvantage. Their survival rate would drop considerably. But human observes nature, is part of, and observes and can see like a tree grows a new limb, or like a reptile grows a new limb, you know. We can see that, the human can observe that, but we can't. Well, we can't do it naturally. We can't. But we can conceive of creating an artificial one. We can conceive. We can conceive of building an artificial arm. A mechanical arm. That takes it out there, man. An artificial replacement. That's big separation. Big separation. Big separation there. Location-wise, there's another location element. And it feels like wet or water, or this kind of floating thing, you know, something near water, and there's like a land mass here, like a land bridge. spell. A land bridge here, and there's water here, and this is my land here. And again, this is location specific. And it feels like the distant past. Distant past. This reminds me of Atlantis. Atlantis. An Atlantean. An Atlantean feel. Ancient Atlantis with this like idea of like what brought us here? You know, that kind of question. Like something that's come through the ages. Come through the ages like Thor. Like Thor, you know, this ancient mythical thing, or like Jason and the Argonauts, that kind of ancient mythical idea. Ancient myth like Atlantis. Very, very Atlantean feel. Very Atlantean feel to it. Or like Thor, or Jason and the Argonauts. What brought us to this point? But it's kind of like a sleeping giant, or a sleeping beast. A sleeping beast, or even the beast system. Feel. These are like something sleeping underwater. That kind of something that is under, you know, that sleeping beast idea. And is, you know, something is under and is awakened. It's awakened. Or conjured. In a more dramatic sense, you know. Like a story. A story, you know, from the depths, kind of a thing. You know, something conjuring up. But the curious thing is that there's also an element like that could also be metaphorical. In nature. Could be metaphorical, or maybe even in the soul. In the soul, or in the deep mind, something is coming up and awakening, like an allegory of time. Allegory of time, like the tapestry, or the tapestry, or the weaving of time. And I had this idea here of this person here, and they are weaving time. This kind of time weaver, or a dream weaver. You know, it's kind of like an ancient fable or something like that. Like an ancient fable. Like an ancient fable of like David versus Goliath. Something like that. You know, you're fighting the giant, that kind of thing. Fighting the giant, that kind of thing. But this also has a feeling of it in the weaving element. That time weaver, that dream weaver, that is calculations, precision, even like an old abacus. I don't know how to spell that, but like an old abacus or something like that. Calculating. Computation. Computation, like in the dream weaver and in the time weaver. Like the weaver of time and the weaver of dreams, it's calculations. This part reminds me of 2001: A Space Odyssey. But this is what I'm seeing here. It's like a supercomputer. A supercomputer. And it's black. I'll call it Big Black. Supercomputer. Even AI related. Big Black. And in this computation, this would be the oracle. This would be the Dreamweaver. This would be the Dreamweaver. The Time Weaver. Big Black. But what would it do? For what? To decode or code, like a DNA, coding DNA, or sequence DNA? Big question mark. But like what? Like species? Coding like DNA from a species? Like what kind of species? If you could, what about enlightened ones? What about giants? What about giants? Or enlightened ones? What if you could sequence DNA? What about Jesus? Would you do his DNA? Would you sequence Jesus' DNA if you had it and put it through Big Black supercomputer? Would you want to do that? Would you do that? If you could. If you could. Would you do that? Like a holographic, like a holographic Jesus? Like a holographic Jesus. That'd be something. A holographic Jesus. So here you go. Doing this thing and you have a follow here. This would be like a holographic sequencer with Jesus in here. And this guy's saying, do I call you master? Do I call you master? This hologram? In that case, then Big Black would be the resurrectionist. Big Black would be the resurrectionist. And the sequencer. In this kind of virtual space here. That is pretty interesting. Like an ancient masters or whatever. But this is Big Black. Big Black. He would run these programs like Oracle. He would be the Oracle, the Dreamweaver, the Giant Maker, simulate Atlantis, the Atlantis simulation program. Or even like DNA tapestry. Sequencer. Gene sequence, even for like giants, recreating the giants, which feels like a part of this situation. But a Dreamweaver would be connected to this. And recording or sequencing REM states creating dream environments. And in Atlantis, like a metaverse world, Atlantis this kind of livable space. Experimental, like the new Atlantis. Creating the new Atlantis through this thing. And the giants. Something about these giants. Something about this. Feels like it involves these giants. The giants. The giants. Like be like a big DNA database. A big DNA database. That could simulate DNA sequence for size and shape, strength. You know, like running all of these sequences. From the like giants, DNA from giants. That's freaky. Millions of DNA types in this simulation. Also in that will be the oracle. Simulation oracle. Simulation oracle. Creating this like a hologram of like calculating probabilities. Calculating probabilities. And this also include human interactions. Even tapping into human potential to do that. But how? How could it do that? Big black here, this power computer, calculator. How would be through a relationship with a human. Very delicate relationship. Delicate between human and AI computer. Very delicate. You would need a dedicated individual to nurture that kind of interaction, so that there's potential to bring out potential. That would need to be nurtured very, very delicately. And that brings me to something else here. Let's see. The responsibility factor. Responsibility factor. The designer. Meaning that the delicate nature of human in this artificial system is a result of the human. The responsibility, the outcome is human designed. Meaning, if you create an AI or artificial arm, you can conceive it. The end result is the responsibility of the designer. Then comes the question of will you lose your humanity as a result? Does it compromise one's humanity if they become something else? If they become something else, if they become something else, that's a big philosophical debate. The nature of humanity, when humanity is interacting with or merges with something artificial that it has created. Are they good or bad? Good? Bad? That's the question. On the good end, are they life-giving? Are they destructive? It's pretty simple. Because life, you have live here, and the opposite. Or backwards is evil. That brings me to something about this target. Something about this target that failed. Something about this target failed. And why? Because it was out of time, or working against time. Working against it, not with it, against it. And came up against time's resistance. And you can't mess with time. What it feels like is that someone got uploaded into Big Black and died as a result. I killed him. I killed him. Killed him. But what is the end game to all this? What is the end game to this location? Atlantis, AI, simulations, giants. Feels like the end game is a transformative. Human. A transformative human. And there's a big cost to that, as they found out. Because something here is interacting with the DNA. In here were the instructions. Where the instructions are. Is it like a false DNA? Creating a false one? Or enhancing? Like a superhuman? Make it stronger, bigger, make new giants. Like some kind of superhuman potential. If you could override the natural. Override. I don't want to say override. Influence the instructions here in the DNA. This kind of stuff reminds me of like Klaus Schwab. Reminds me like Klaus Schwab. And his type of plan, his plans. But he feels like a distraction. He feels like a distraction. But so who would he be working for? Who or what is controlling him? Or what's controlling him? I get this notion of like an amoeba or a parasite. A parasite. But why? It's like the parasite. This is the notion that the parasite wants to create a less resistant host. A less resistant host. And has them working on it for it. If that is the case, that's pretty crazy. But if that is the case, that's why you need to keep your mind, keep your emotions, keep your love and joy, individuality. Because whatever this target is about, some element of it brings me to that notion there. Feels very Atlantean. This is like some Atlantean element here. 7953-6101.
Edward leaves my mind racing with countless questions. Just how far advanced was the society, the civilization that constructed Göbekli Tepe, and what was their true intended purpose? Once again, Edward made reference to giants. So what type of life forms were we seeing there? Is there a connection to Atlantis? And again, how far advanced were they? We have to ask the question, is there an AI that was involved in this? And if so, where is that AI today? Is it still buried at the site? Is it still out there? Can we engage with it? I find it interesting how Edward concluded his session. Keep your mind, keep your emotions, keep your love, joy, and individuality. I think it's wise advice coming from the past through Edward to all of us, and maybe relevant to some of the things we're experiencing today. A great session by Edward and the rest of the remote viewers. On behalf of Edward and the rest of the crypto viewing team, I'm Dennis Snappy II. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.